in 1997, right after the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I was there as an international observer on behalf of the United Nations. I just graduated doing my master's degree in peace studies and conflict resolution at Richardson Institute in Lancaster University. And my thesis was all about finding our identity and fulfilling it in order to solve conflicts. And there I was, at the core of the worst modern civil war in Europe. Neighbors kill each other because hate and fear became the cocktail Molotov for that society. More than 2 million people were displaced or, worse, executed. It was 4 a.m. in the morning, and there were long lines of people waiting to vote. I was there in order to bring democracy, and I saw a woman who was super excited, super engaged, and she stood out because she was surrounded by people, and I felt the energy. I went to her and I asked her. Her name was Blikna, 85 years old, and she told me a story that I carry with me since then. She told me, Luis, I lost my husband, my son, all my family, almost all my friends, my house. But what I haven't lost is my hope to live in peace. I know that one day I will be happy again. Can you imagine? After all that suffering, she's telling me, I haven't lost my hope to live in peace, and I know that one day I will be happy again. I took those words deep into my heart, and since then, I decided to look for the roots of so much trauma and so much drama. When I came back from Bosnia, I was a new person. And I decided to create and to explore what is happiness, well-being, and why that can become the sweet spot to find solutions between utopias and dystopias. That's why since then I created the World Happiness Fest, the World Happiness Foundation, programs such as Global Happiness at the United Nations University for Peace, and the concept of Happytalism as new paradigm for human progress. I've worked at the corporate level, and I work with many leaders. Some of them are super visionaries, and some of them very toxic. I'm sure that you know some of them. Something that really defines the first point of separation that I want to read today is the concept of self-disconnection. So today we are going to be talking, I'm going to be discussing with you about 3 points of separation. What I mean by separation is being disconnected with yourself, with the communities, and with nature. And what I mean by reconnection is about building ways to bond with ourselves, with each other, and with nature. And this first point of disconnection is about all ourselves. So if you look at the corporate level and you see these leaders, something that stood out to me is that 80% of these leaders are not helping workers, employees, to be happy at work. Actually, 80% of people at work are unhappy. I couldn't believe that. So I went deeper into understanding why. And do you know the main reason? Because they don't want to work with their boss, with their manager. And do you know why? Because those people are disconnected to themselves. Probably you know people who are constantly under stress. Probably you know people that feel overwhelmed by their emotions. and have a sense of emptiness. They feel out of touch, and they feel a lack of meaning and purpose. This is consistently with all these people who are actually not helping others to achieve their goals. This leads me to the second point of separation, which is loneliness. And the second point of reconnection, which is actually giving and sharing. So let me share with you this wonderful story. Thanks to my journey of discovery and connection, I met so many amazing people. And one of them is Eric Weihenmayer. In 2001, he became the first person, the first blind person to reach the summit of Mount Everest. That was an incredible journey of 2 years of training. He was determined and he was planning, but something that was incredible is that actually he didn't do it alone. He brought a team together that was the key to this success. We normally like to spotlight people and we make them heroes, but the reality is that when we look at how humanity has grown, it's actually about community building and collaboration. So this is Eric's team. Something that is so spectacular about this story is that the same day that Eric topped Mount Everest, the largest team in history topped the Everest at the same time with Eric. JV, the expedition leader, put together an incredible team of people who were basically focused on helping Eric to achieve the top. But by bonding, by building deep relationships, they all were able to top the peak at the same time. When we are able to create shared humanity and a common narrative, we are ready to dissolve what today is the worst pandemic in the world, is the pandemic of loneliness. Loneliness is as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. In the USA, 1 out of 4 people report having 0 friends. Teenagers and the age of 18 and 22, that's the worst age, and 45% of those kids report feeling lonely. The only way we can dissolve the issue of loneliness is by belonging, is by giving. When we give, this is the way we are really forging and building what I call is happytalism. Happytalism is growing from our fear. Happytalism is overcoming our shadows. Happytalism is actually the sweet spot between utopias and dystopias. But let me address the third point of separation, and this is the separation with nature. This picture that you can see here is Lagos, Nigeria. When I landed there, I was working with a corporate client. I couldn't believe what I saw. Hundreds of thousands of people living on water, but without access to drinking water. We see this all over the world. We've been using nature and we've been extracting the resources of nature instead of living interdependently with nature. So this is the third point of separation. When I talked to Vandana Shiva, who is an activist, a physicist, quantum physicist, I love when she frames that our reconnection has to be through food. When we connect with food, when we connect with nature and we understand how to embrace it, and actually had to hug it, literally, this is the way we are going to be overcoming this third point of separation. So self, each other, communities, and nature are all fluid, and they all work in a fluid system. If we understand the interconnections, that's when we are ready to move to a world where people can be happier and less miserable. This building is not Bosnia 24 years ago. This is Miami. This is the neighborhood of Surfside. This is my neighborhood. This is July 2021. At 1 a.m., 100 people, 155 people exactly were in that building. They didn't wake up. Can we talk about happiness when there is so much trauma around the world? Yes, we have to. This is what we have to do. We have to talk about happiness because happiness is a healer. When we share happiness, we are healing. And when there is collective trauma, we need collective healing. So let me resume these 3 points of separations. First, reconnection with ourselves. How do we do this? We do this through self-compassion. Self-compassion is loving ourselves as we love somebody else. The way we can reconnect with ourselves is when we look at this old woman in Bosnia. She was talking as a conscious leader. She had lost everything, but she was able to embrace her suffering and show me that she cared, that she had hope. The second point of separation is all about loneliness. It's all about being disengaged with our communities. How can we solve loneliness? Well, it's sharing our humanity. It's about belonging. It's about giving. So if there is a secret tool and it's a secret weapon for good, this is about giving. It's about gratitude. It's about sharing. The more we give, when we put our heart in giving, this is the moment we are dissolving this pandemic of loneliness. So start giving today. And if we really want to be into the journey of happytalism, this is about reconnection with nature. We live in interdependence. And when we connect self, communities, and nature, we are really creating the system where we can flourish and we can move from undermining our resources, our life, losing hope, and moving into a space of abundance. So this is my invitation to you, become a happytalist today. In order to move, we have to understand that freedom, consciousness, and happiness are the key elements of this movement. It's about freedom from fear. It's about freedom to be. It's about consciousness to expand and evolve. And it's about happiness to share. So it's not about being happy, it's about being happiness. The moment we share, we start the process of healing. So this happiness for me is the active element of the whole system. When we are free, conscious, and happiness, this is the moment where we are starting to build a world with freedom, consciousness, and happiness for all. So thank you.
Dankeschön.